Hey guys, so I get a ton of questions being a 22-year-old real estate agent and having friends who are going to be buying, first-time home buyers that are going to be buying in the next couple years. And the three main things that I get asked are, what do I need to do to prepare to buy a home in the next 6 months, year, or 5 years? The second thing is, what do I need for a down payment? And the third thing is, what is an estimate of what of my monthly payment is going to be for a home, because they want to compare it to what they're paying for rent. And then at the very end, I'm going to do a really quick overview about what the buying process actually looks like. So let's jump into the first thing. What do you need to do to prepare in the months and years leading up to when you're planning on purchasing a home? The first thing that you need to do is focus on your credit. How exactly do you help your credit score? You do things like paying off debt. So if you have any credit cards, car loans, any sort of loans, student loans, anything like that, if you can get your debt ratio down, one thing that lenders look at when they go to give you a mortgage is what your debt to income ratio is. So keeping that debt off is really going to help your credit score. If you don't already have something like a credit card, I actually am going to say that you should get one. Maybe you only use it for fuel and then you immediately pay it off right after you put money on that a purchase on that credit card. But showing and proving a positive credit score is super, super important. Other things are not being late on payments, paying off medical bills. Overall, those are things that are going to help your credit. Lenders really, really look at credit. It determines your interest rate. It determines what kind of loan you can get. So credit is super important. The second thing that you're going to focus on is going to be, I kind of touched on it, but paying off your debt. If you have any loans, any debt, I already said the debt to income ratio is huge when a lender is looking at giving you a loan. So pay off your debt and keep your debt low if you can. The third thing is going to be focusing on making sure that you have at least 2 years of tax returns. The bank wants to see that you are able to prove your income and that you have stable income and that you have either the same job or a job in the same field for at least 2 years. They want to make sure that you're not going to buy a home and then 6 months later decide to go and get a different job where you can't make your payments or you're not making enough. So make sure that you have at least 2 years worth of tax returns to be able to prove your income. Next thing is preparing your down payment. So what exactly, I'm going to touch, this is kind of going into the next topic, but you also need to know as you're preparing for this, what do you need for a down payment? The rule of thumb is for a conventional or FHA loan, and I'll go through what those are in a second, but those have lower interest rates, that you're going to need at least 3% of the purchase price of the home. So you're going to need 3% of $300,000 if you're planning on and get approved for a $300,000 home. So figure out a price point, maybe take $300,000 because that is kind of an average of a starter home, and take 3% of that, and that's going to be your down payment. A lot of things that people don't like lump into the down payment, but you need when you buy a home is going to be closing costs. It's not very often that a seller actually pays for all of the closing costs. Maybe they pay for some of the closing costs. But on average, it's going to be between 2 and 2.5% of the purchase price. So if you're looking at it in a whole, you're going to need between 5 and 5.5% of the overall purchase prices of a home. That's what you're going to need in savings to be able to buy the home. That is if you don't use a first-time home buyer down payment assistance program, and I'll go through that in a second. But if you're going to keep your interest rate low, so a good rule of thumb is going to be 3% for the down payment and 2 to 2.5% for closing costs, and that's what you're going to need when you sit down to buy the home before you even move in. The last thing on the list is going to be getting pre-qualified and talking to a real estate agent. So getting pre-qualified, you can't get pre-qualified too early. Lenders are awesome at telling you the exact steps that you personally need to take to be able to get approved to buy a home. And roughly when you do those steps, when you fix your credit or when you pay off some loans or when you have X number of dollars for a down payment, then you can afford this amount for a home. So talking to a lender is awesome. It is never too early. I have someone, his name is Mike. I will give some of the information below, contact information for him, because that's who I use and he's amazing. We actually used him for when we purchased our home also. So talk to a lender and talk to a real estate agent so you can get an idea of what the market's like. What is the market doing? What are you looking for, and is what you're looking for within your budget? So those are the last 2 steps in the 5 steps that you need to take to prepare to buy a home. So now let's talk about down payment. I talked about it a little bit, obviously, a second ago. The rough numbers are 3% for down payment, 2 to 2.5% for closing costs. That's what you need to buy the home. That's if you're going FHA or conventional. And FHA and conventional loans have a lower interest rate than a first-time homebuyer down payment assistance program that has a higher interest rate. So if you don't want to have a higher interest rates cause higher monthly payments. That's why that's important. If you don't have the money to go FHA or conventional, then you can do a first-time homebuyer down payment assistance program. That is such a mouthful. You only need $1,000 to go that way. But you do need to know that the less money that you put down, the more money you're going to pay overall, because you're not paying as much up front. So your monthly payments are going to increase. And also by using this down payment assistance program, your interest rates are going to be higher than FHA and conventional. So going that route may save you a lot of money in the beginning when you first get into a home. And if you can afford the extra cost for using this program monthly, then that's the way that you should go. But you do need to know that there are more costs associated with using that program. All right, now I want to talk about estimates of what it's going to be monthly to get into a home. This changes all the time. These numbers change all the time. But I want to give you guys just a rough idea about what it would be. Okay, so we will take a $300,000 home in the Colorado market right now with the interest rates that are today. If you are to, I have my numbers right here. If you are to buy a $300,000 home, and you have a full down payment, so you have the full 3% plus the 2.5% for closing costs, it's going to be anywhere between $1,800 and about $2,000. If you start working, if you are using a down payment assistance program, you're going to be looking somewhere in the ballpark of $2,100 to $2,400 and up, depending on the purchase price. But those are the ballpark estimates. Something else that you have to take into consideration when you're talking about monthly payments is, are you moving into an HOA? HOA payments are factored into your mortgage. So when you get approved and they say, okay, well, you can afford a $300,000 home, let's say that you have a $250 HOA payment like I do, that's factored in, but it's on top of the $1,800, $1,900, $2,000. So let's say that your payment that you're paying for your house is $2,000 a month, and then you also have an HOA, then you would add that on top of it. Don't forget about HOA payments. If you move into somewhere that doesn't have a very big HOA, if it's a standalone home, if it's a single family home, it's not an attached home, then it could very possibly be lower. It could be like $50 a month. If you move into a townhome or a condo, then it could be anywhere between $100, $200, or $300 depending on the HOA. All right, so let's go through what is like a rough idea of the process when you buy. So it can be so scary. Why do I know this? Because I only work with first-time home buyers, and I was a first-time home buyer, and it can be really scary. The money side of it, being worried that you don't have enough money to get into it, being worried that you're not gonna have enough money to pay the monthly payments, and then you're trying to find a home. It's all really stressful and it's all really scary. I know because I was there. But what does the process look like? Your real estate agent should be taking care of the process for you and should be contacting you all the time saying, okay, well, this is where we're at. This is what we need to do. I'm taking care of you and I'm taking care of this for you, but I just want you to be aware of what's going on. That's the kind of agent that you need for first-time home buyers, because you need to be walked through. You need your hand held. You need to make sure that everything is like A-okay and that you're not stressing any more than you need to be. All right, so the process. What does it look like? After you do the first 5 things that I just talked about, you do the preparation process. The actual process of buying a home is pre-approval with a lender and getting a letter of approval so you can prove to the person that you're buying the home from that you are a good buyer. And you talk to a real estate agent and you sign a contract. You have to sign a contract with an agent. It normally states you can talk about this with your agent, but it states that you're going to work with them. You can't work with anybody else for X amount of time, 6 months, a year, however long you want to make it. So talk to a lender, sign a contract with a real estate agent. After you sign the contract, you're going to go looking for homes. You get to actually go book appointments to go walk through homes, which is the fun part. And then you get to talk about where you want to move and what you want it to have and all that fun stuff. That's the fun part of the process. After you find the home, you put in an offer. You wait for the seller's agent to get back with you about whether the seller accepted your offer, countered your offer, or pretty much said, no, we're not accepting that offer. A counter offer is when they say, well, yeah, we'll sell it to you, but we want it for this price instead. Like if you put in an offer for less than they were asking, like maybe they come back and say, no, we want a full price offer, or no, we're not including the washer dryer, things like that. That's what a counter offer is. So next step, let's say that you get accepted or you get a counter and you accept the counter, then you're under contract, yay! And so now it goes through the under contract phase. The next thing after you're under contract is you go through all the inspections. This is something that you guys need to know. Inspections normally, like 8 times out of 10, cost you money. They are between $200 and $500 depending on what inspections you get. The 2 inspections that are done most often are going to be just an overall home inspection that you absolutely have to have, and you wouldn't want to buy a home unless you got it inspected. That's normally between $200 and $300. That's to make sure that everything works. Like the foundation is fine, the roof is fine, the electrical's fine, the water heater's fine, just everything works. And then obviously, if something doesn't work, then you can go to the seller and say, hey, this doesn't work, the heater doesn't work, and then they will either fix it or they'll give you something called concessions, which is they take money off of closing or they take money off of the entire purchase price, so you can take that money and fix it yourself when you move in. Sorry, anyway, little rant. That's good to know though. And then the second one is going to be a sewer scope. If you are purchasing a single family home that's not attached, absolutely get a sewer scope to make sure that your sewer pipe isn't busted or it's not going to bust, and the integrity is strong and all that. If you live in a condo or townhome, it's not very likely that your sewer doesn't work because everyone around you wouldn't work. So that is up to your discretion. You can choose to do a sewer scope if you want. You don't have to. But those are the 2 main inspections. After you do the inspections, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on that has nothing to do with you. It's all about your agent filling out paperwork, the lender verifying your pre-approval and making sure that monetarily you're all set, the seller making sure that they fix any problems that you found with inspection. So you just wait. It's a waiting period. You wait for everybody else. Finally, you go through your walkthrough a couple days before closing. You make sure that everything is still where it should be. Like if you included the washer dryer and you do your walkthrough and the washer dryer isn't there, then you have a problem. So those are the things that you're looking for. And then after your walkthrough, you go to closing. So you're going to sit down with your lender, could possibly be there. Your agent absolutely should be there. And then the title company will probably be there, and you're going to fill out all of the paperwork that you need to fill out, all the disclosures, just making sure that you understand everything. That's when you're going to sign paperwork about home warranties and homeowner's insurance and stuff like that. So you're going to go through all that paperwork. And then you're also going to go through that paperwork with your agent before you get to closing, but that's where you're going to sign all your documents. That's where you get your keys. That's where you get your garage code. If there's a garage code, that's where all the stuff happens. And then after you close, the home is yours. So overall, that's what the process looks like. Those are the things that you need to do to prepare to buy a home, and I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any questions at all, you can email me at nikelperry@gmail.com, or you can text me or call me at 720-841-8198. I would love to work with you guys. I'd love to answer any questions that you guys have, and I'm so excited to hopefully work with you guys in the future.